You're listening to the Peace with Anxiety podcast. I am your host, Irene Evangelou, anxiety counselor and clinical hypnotherapist. I'll be coming to you every week to share actionable tips, simple strategies, and useful resources to help you break free from high-functioning anxiety. We'll be covering how to recognize and understand your anxiety, strategies to change your thoughts and feelings, and ways to implement long-lasting change. If you're trying to overcome people-pleasing behaviors, navigate anxiety, living in self-doubt, or something else keeping you stuck, then you are in the right place. I know that you're ready to get to the next level of your life, feeling free, calm, confident, and in control. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Peace with Anxiety podcast. In today's episode, we will dive into 3 types of anxiety presentation. I wanted to do this because I believe that by detailing the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors associated with anxiety, you will get a real, detailed look into what it feels like. So describing those types isn't just about information, it's about knowing that you are not alone in this one. When we get into the specifics, it's like we're pulling the curtain. We demystify anxiety. And by doing that, anxiety loses its power over you. And you start to feel free from its grip. The hope is that you hear something and think, yeah, that's me. Or I know someone who goes through that. It's about empathy and understanding. I want these descriptions to be a tool for you, a way to see the complexity of anxiety, and maybe even encourage some of you to take that brave step towards seeking support or be there for others who might need it. Alright, let's break down the stigma, empower each other, and make our mental health conversations open, real, and supportive. So let's get started. So anxiety, in its purest form, is a natural and universal human response to perceived threats. It's our body's way of preparing us for challenges, with symptoms ranging from mild worry to intense fear. In episode 1, we talked more about what anxiety is and where it comes from. So if you haven't listened yet, please head over to episode 1 to tune in. Now, while anxiety is a common part of the human experience, it is important to understand how it presents itself when it comes to personality, relationships, and career. So someone with anxiety often experiences persistent and intrusive thoughts. They might find themselves caught in a cycle of overthinking, anticipated potential negative outcomes in various situations. There might be a tendency to magnify potential threats, leading to catastrophic thoughts about the future. Everyday challenges can be perceived as impossible obstacles. Because anxiety is fundamentally linked to fear, someone with anxiety may constantly feel on edge, anticipating danger even in regular situations. This pervasive fear can lead to a heightened state of constant arousal. They may experience physical restlessness and emotional irritability. The constant undercurrent of worry can make it challenging to relax and be present in the moment. There might be a heightened awareness of the surroundings as well, with individuals constantly scanning for potential threats. This hypervigilance can be mentally exhausting. Many people with anxiety, especially high-functioning anxiety, may exhibit perfectionistic tendencies. They set high standards for themselves, fearing that any deviation from perfection might lead to negative consequences. And we will talk more about high-function anxiety shortly. Now, in an attempt to manage anxiety, These individuals may develop avoidance behaviours. This can involve avoiding certain places, people, or activities that trigger anxiety in an attempt to alleviate these feelings. Anxiety may manifest as heightened fear of rejection or abandonment in relationships, leading to insecurity and doubt. There might be a tendency to catastrophize, imagining the worst-case scenarios in relationships and interactions. Anxiety can contribute to social anxiety, making our social interactions challenging, leading to feelings of self-consciousness. There might be a constant vigilance in relationships with individuals so hyper-aware of potential threats that they actually gonna avoid situations of conflict to prevent potential discomfort or rejection. They also tend to overanalyze conversations and interactions with others, and they might seek reassurance frequently. Now, anxiety can contribute to imposter syndrome, where individuals doubt their accomplishments and fear being exposed as fraud. There may be heightened fear of criticism or judgment from colleagues or superiors that impacts their confidence. In the workplace, they feel tension and stress, but they also feel restless and unable to fully relax during non-work hours. Their overthinking leads to difficulty shifting focus, and they are in an increased risk of burnout. They fear of failing, and this leads them to avoid challenging tasks or projects, and their anxiety can also lead them to procrastination as they struggle to initiate tasks. They also find it challenging to delegate tasks, fearing that others won't meet their standards, and this leads to an increased stress and workload. Now, moving on to stress. Stress is a specific response to external pressures or demands, usually with a defined cause or trigger. It's a transient state that arises in response to particular situations like deadlines, financial pressures, or life changes. Now, once the stressor diminishes, so does the stress response. Unlike anxiety, stress is time-limited and tends to resolve when the external pressure eases. So the main distinction between anxiety and stress is the temporary nature of stress. Now, stress often brings about persistent worrying thoughts that is primarily centered around the source of the stress. Now, these individuals may find it challenging to redirect their thoughts away from the stressor, and this mental preoccupation with the stressor can lead to difficulties in concentration and focus. Decision-making may become more challenging because stress is closely tied to feelings of anxiety and tension. Individuals under stress may experience physical symptoms such as muscle tension, headaches, or a racing heart. Stress can contribute to irritability and a shorter temper. Everyday frustrations may elicit stronger emotional reactions during these periods of heightened stress. Prolonged stress can lead to changes in the mood. They may become more prone to mood swings or experience a generally more negative outlook. Stress can reduce patience levels, making it harder to tolerate minor inconveniences or delays. Stress can lead to irritability, make it challenging to navigate interpersonal interactions calmly. These individuals may withdraw socially due to stress, preferring solitude to manage these overwhelming feelings, which then results in feelings of loneliness because they are socially isolated. There may be guilt associated with not being fully present or engaged in these relationships due to stress. They may struggle to express themselves clearly or become less receptive to others' needs during times of stress, and their interactions with them can be more tense than normal. Now, someone under stress may perceive everyday tasks at work as threats, which contributes to a heightened stress level, which then leads to belief in the inability to cope with these work-related challenges. They often feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of tasks or goals they need to accomplish, and they tend to anticipate negative outcomes. The inability to meet personal goals within a desired time frame can lead to frustration, and stress often brings a sense of lack of control over personal goals. Feeling stressed for a long time at work can lead to burnout, so they might feel emotionally exhausted, and they have reduced professional efficiency. Someone who is stressed often struggles to find fulfillment in their work, which can lead them to procrastinate as a way to avoid confronting the source of stress. They have difficulty concentrating on specific goals, impacting their productivity, which then affects the overall quality of work and job performance. The impact of stress can even make them decide to distance from work temporarily to alleviate the pressure. In an attempt to cope with the stress, they might turn to unhealthy habits such as overeating, excessive caffeine consumption, or increased use of substances like alcohol or tobacco. Stress can disrupt sleep patterns, leading to difficulties falling asleep or staying asleep, which then in turn can contribute to a cycle of increased stress and decreased resilience. And now our final form of anxiety, which is high-functioning anxiety. And this one often flies under the radar, masked with external achievements and apparent composure. That is because someone with high-functioning anxiety may excel in their goals, but struggle internally with feelings of not being enough. It involves a constant state of unease, perfectionism, and overthinking, all while presenting a facade of competence to the outside world. Differentiating high-function anxiety from general anxiety lies in recognizing the ability to function externally while internally managing heightened stress and worry. Individuals with high-function anxiety are often high achievers, excelling in various aspects of their lives. The fear of failing or not meeting expectations drives them to strive for excellence. There might be a tendency to overcommit due to a fear of disappointing others. Saying no can evoke anxiety about being perceived as incapable or unhelpful. High-function anxiety can manifest as a constant state of restlessness, as if time is always running out. They may struggle with patience and find it challenging to relax, even during leisure time. And despite outward success, there might be an underlying sense of unease or impending doom. Success doesn't bring the expected satisfaction. Instead, there is an immediate shift to the next goal. Individuals with high-function anxiety often hold themselves to exceptionally high standards. They might engage in constant self-evaluation, fearing that any perceived failure will have significant consequences. There may be a tendency to overplan and anticipate every possible outcome, even in routine situations. The mind is often preoccupied with what-ifs and contingency planning. They fear letting others down, and they seek to meet perceived expectations consistently. There might be a tendency to overanalyze social interactions, fearing that any misstep could harm the relationships. Similar to anxiety, individuals may constantly be vigilant in relationships, monitoring for signs of dissatisfaction or disappointment. While the pressure to maintain relationships at the highest standards may lead to social fatigue, an attempt to meet expectations may lead to overcommitting in relationships despite personal stress. They might have difficulty delegating tasks, which is created from a fear that others won't meet their personal standards. So despite external success, individuals with high-function anxiety may find it challenging to open up about their internal struggles, fearing vulnerability or judgment. High function anxiety can lead to a strong desire for approval from others. There may be a fear of being judged, and individuals may go to great lengths to maintain a positive image. High function anxiety often involves thriving in high pressure situations. These individuals may excel at work, meeting deadlines and surpassing expectations, but at the cost of heightened stress. Imposter syndrome is very common among those individuals, causing them to question their competence despite numerous proof of external success. They are constantly afraid of failing, even in the face of consistent professional achievements. Praise and recognition may be uncomfortable, as they fear they won't live up to future expectations. There might be hesitancy to delegate tasks, as the fear of others not meeting their standards can create additional stress. This can result in a heavy workload. Constant busyness and staying occupied can be a way to mask or manage anxiety. The fear of free time may drive individuals to fill their schedules to avoid confronting anxious thoughts. So despite external success, they cannot truly relax, as their mind may continue to race with thoughts about future tasks or potential issues. Workaholism becomes a way to cope, but it's driven more by anxiety than genuine passion. So to recap, as we've covered a lot today, the first point of this episode is that anxiety is our natural response to challenges, not a disorder. It's like a built-in alarm system, and we're breaking down the stigma around it. Second, stress is a temporary visitor, usually tied to specific triggers like deadlines or life changes. And finally, high-function anxiety. It's the hidden struggle behind the achievers. So we discuss how it's about excelling on the outside while battling internal stress. Thank you for listening to the Peace with Anxiety podcast. If you found any value in today, I would really appreciate if you would leave me a review and share this episode on your Instagram story, tagging me at Irene, the Anxiety Therapist. Also, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. All the links are found below in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.